In a perfectly optimized industrial world, every single bottle of water on a store shelf would be identical. Buy a bottle of Aquafina in New York City, then buy that same brand in Los Angeles, and the liquid inside these PET plastic bottles should be chemically indistinguishable. Modern manufacturing promises absolute consistency, absolute safety, and absolute neutrality through polyethylene terephthalate containers engineered for global supply chain logistics. We've been trained to expect bottled water as the one product that never changes, the control group of our diet, the one thing without variables. Frequently, though, this industrial promise fails. You crack the seal on a bottle you've bought 100 times before, take a sip, and something feels off. Maybe there's a strangely sweet, fruity aftertaste that shouldn't exist. Maybe a sharp metallic tang hits the back of your throat. Maybe it just tastes distinctly and undeniably like plastic. In previous episodes, we looked at how bottled water is engineered to be neutral and interchangeable. This episode is about what happens after that engineering leaves the factory. For years, consumers have dismissed these sensory anomalies, telling ourselves it's just our imagination, or maybe we just brushed our teeth, or maybe the water's just a little warm. Chemical analysis of the supply chain reveals something different. These off flavors aren't subjective errors at all. They're data points, chemical evidence that something specific went wrong in the journey from factory to hand. When you taste something wrong in your water, you're detecting a failure in the logistics of the modern world, tasting the friction of machinery, the thermal abuse of transport networks, or the chemical instability of materials never designed to last forever. Understanding why your favorite water sometimes tastes wrong requires us to stop looking at it as a natural resource and start looking at it as a compromised industrial product governed by FDA food contact regulations. That distinct chemical sweetness ranks as the first and most common complaint, a flavor that disorients because water, by definition, shouldn't be sweet. When you detect this, you're not tasting the water itself, but rather the breakdown of the vessel that holds it. Almost every single-serve water bottle in the world gets made from PET, or polyethylene terephthalate, which in a temperature-controlled laboratory stays incredibly stable and inert, keeping the water inside and the world outside. But here's the thing. The global supply chain isn't a laboratory. What exists instead is a brutal, chaotic network of unconditioned warehouses, shipping containers, and delivery trucks. Consider the life cycle of that bottle before you bought it, starting at a factory where the blow molding process shaped it from a test tube preform, then possibly sitting on a loading dock in direct sunlight before being loaded into a semi-truck trailer, where internal temperatures can easily exceed 140 degrees Fahrenheit during summer months. Weeks might pass in a distribution center before the bottle finally reaches the grocery store shelf. Under these conditions of thermal stress, the polymer chains of the plastic bottle begin to relax, not melting in the visible sense, but opening up on a molecular level. This accelerates a process known as migration. Acetaldehyde is the specific compound that migrates most readily from PET into water, along with trace amounts of antimony, a catalyst residue from the polyethylene terephthalate production process. Acetaldehyde forms as a naturally occurring byproduct of the thermal degradation of polyester, created when the bottle gets blown from a test tube shape into a full bottle and released again when that bottle heats up during storage. To the human palate, acetaldehyde tastes fruity, tangy, or chemically sweet. Antimony migration, while occurring at lower concentrations, represents another pathway by which PET bottles can compromise water chemistry under thermal stress. The beverage industry knows this well, monitoring acetaldehyde levels strictly at the factory gate under International Bottled Water Association standards. But once the product leaves the factory, they lose control of the environment. Buy a case of water that's been heat cycled, heated up in a truck during the day, and cooled down at night repeatedly, and the concentration of acetaldehyde in the water rises dramatically. When you take a sip and taste that faint, sugary plastic note, you're tasting the thermal history of that bottle. Your tongue detects the fact that at some point in the last 3 months, that specific container got baked in a truck or a warehouse. The water hasn't expired, but the container's integrity has been compromised by the logistics of getting it to you. What about the metallic taste, though? This ranks as perhaps the most misunderstood flavor profile in the water industry. People taste metal and assume contamination, worrying about lead pipes or rusty machinery. That's possible in theory, But the most common cause of metallic-tasting water is actually the exact opposite, not caused by too many contaminants, but by too few. Brands like Dasani use reverse osmosis to strip water down to nearly pure H2O, creating a blank slate. Chemically, pure water acts as an aggressive solvent. Water is the universal solvent, wanting to dissolve things. When water gets stripped of all its dissolved solids, all its calcium, magnesium, and sodium, it becomes hungry, chemically unstable in its desire to bond with ions. Ultra-purified water that has extremely low total dissolved solids, or TDS, reacts instantly with the environment it enters, which is your mouth. That water actively tries to pull minerals from the saliva and the mucous membranes of your tongue, and this rapid ion exchange creates a sensation of dryness, astringency, or a sharp tang that the brain interprets as metallic. Brands like Aquafina or Dasani, which are highly purified, often get complaints about a coin-like or metallic aftertaste. Water sommelier circles call this the tequila effect, where the lack of texture and mineral buffering makes the water feel sharp and aggressive. The wrong taste isn't a failure of filtration, but the filtration working too well. The industry has engineered a liquid so pure that it's chemically incompatible with the expectations of your palate. Another more insidious chemical reaction happens in bottles stored for long periods, also contributing to a sour or tangy taste. Plastic bottles aren't perfectly airtight. Over months of storage, PT plastic allows for gas exchange, breathing. Carbon dioxide from the air can slowly permeate through the plastic wall and dissolve into the water. When carbon dioxide dissolves in water, it forms mild carbonic acid, slowly dropping the pH of the water and making it more acidic. Freshly bottled water might start at a neutral pH of 7, but after 6 months in a warehouse, that same bottle might drop to a pH of 5.5 or even 5.0, approaching the acidity of black coffee. Open an older bottle and taste something sour or sharp, and you're tasting this shift in acidity. Labels might promise pure neutral water, but physics and time have altered the chemistry inside the sealed environment. Not all off-tastes are chemical, though. Some are physical. Consumers often struggle to describe a texture complaint, a feeling of grit, scratchiness, or a synthetic mouthfeel. For a long time, this got dismissed as paranoia, but recent advancements in laser imaging technology have provided a mechanical explanation that's hard to ignore. A January 2024 study from Columbia University utilizing stimulated Raman scattering microscopy revealed that bottled water contains exponentially more plastic particles than we previously thought, up to 250,000 microplastic particles per liter. What's revealing about the data isn't just the number, but the type of plastic. A significant amount of this debris wasn't PET from the bottle itself, but polypropylene and nylon. This points to a specific mechanical failure point, which is the cap. Opening a bottle of water is a violent mechanical act on a microscopic level. Breaking the safety ring and twisting the cap means you're grinding hard plastic threads against each other under pressure, and this friction shears off microscopic shards of polypropylene that fall directly into the water immediately before you drink it. That subtle synthetic texture or the feeling that the water isn't quite clear often results from this mechanical shedding, a functional byproduct of the closure system itself. You're not just drinking water, but ingesting the debris from the mechanism used to seal it. One final, larger variable causes water to taste wrong, and this one isn't about chemistry or physics, but about economics. This explains why a brand you've trusted for 10 years might suddenly taste completely different next week. The instability comes from the source itself. Many premium bottled waters get marketed as natural spring water or natural mineral water. By law, under EU Directive 2009/54/EC, this classification requires the water to come from a specific underground source and cannot be chemically treated or altered, must be bottled as it exists in nature. Brands like Perrier, Vittel, or Fiji sell you on the specific mineral profile of that specific geological location. Nature is inconsistent, though. Aquifers deplete, groundwater levels shift, and sometimes sources get contaminated. In a purely honest system, if a source became contaminated with bacteria or pesticides, production would stop. But the bottled water industry operates on massive volume requirements, and stopping production isn't an option for a multinational conglomerate. In early 2024, a massive scandal exposed that major European brands had been secretly filtering their natural mineral water for years, violating EU Directive 2009/54/EC. Facing contamination in their historic wells, they quietly installed prohibited filtration systems, carbon filters, and UV lights to clean the water while continuing to sell it as untouched natural mineral water. Why does this matter for taste? Because filtration changes the character of the water, stripping out the microbiome and altering the mineral balance that gave the water its specific taste profile. If you're a loyal drinker of a specific brand and one day it tastes flat or sterile, you might be detecting a silent change in the production process. Labels haven't changed, marketing hasn't changed, but the company may have altered the liquid to keep the factory running despite environmental degradation at the source. This reality challenges the entire concept of brand loyalty in the water aisle. Buying a bottle of water, we assume we're buying a constant, assuming that strict regulations and massive industrial scale guarantee a uniform experience. Water is, by its nature, a difficult product to standardize, a universal solvent that absorbs everything it touches: the minerals from the ground, the chemicals from the plastic, the heat from the truck, and the gases from the warehouse. Those off flavors, the sweetness, the metal, the sourness, aren't mysteries but predictable outcomes of a system that tries to force a natural resource into a global logistics chain. Sweetness is the taste of thermal degradation. Metal is the taste of aggressive purity. Sourness is the taste of permeable storage. Grit is the taste of mechanical friction. When you taste these things, it's not a sign that your senses are failing, but a sign that the industrial buffer between you and the product has slipped. You're tasting the reality of how that bottle reached you, tasting the weeks in the shipping container, the hours in the hot delivery truck, and the mechanical violence of the packaging line. Next time you take a sip of your favorite bottled water and it tastes wrong, don't force yourself to finish it. Your palate is detecting a compromise in the product's integrity, a reminder that even the most engineered, standardized, and regulated product on Earth is still subject to the laws of physics and the chaos of the real world. This isn't about danger or personal risk. It's about understanding how a global industrial system behaves under heat, time, and scale. The bottle may be sealed, but it's never truly separated from the system that created it.